Welcome back. We're here with Paul again. And next up is Meet the Release Team. Enjoy.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, with this, I'm the only representative today, but I still wanted to do this session similar like I've seen the DSA do it in the past and the technical committee. I thought it was a good time to do a Meet the Release Team session. Like the previous session, it's open for discussion, questions. I think that's more than discussion. But let me first introduce who the team is. This is the copy-paste from the last delegation by our DPL, already 3 years old. So Emilio, Adam, Julian, Cyril, Ivo, Jonathan, me, Graham, and Sebastian. The bottom three are the newest assets to the team, and they do most of the work for the preparing the next stable release. Adam, Julian, and Jonathan do, well, Adam most, and the other two help with the stable releases. Emilio helps once in a while with transitions, and Cyril is mostly representative, the Debian installer in our team. And this is already my last slide for the preparation. This is actually the first line of the task description. So our responsibility is to oversee the releases that Debian releases. So, as we're currently preparing for Bookworm, a lot of the activity is going on for testing. So we define what's ready to migrate to testing and the rules about testing and the architectures, although on that last front we suck a bit, so we should get better there. And of course the stable and old stable releases, when at least old stable when that's applicable, they're managed for the point release updates. And that's our delegation. If you don't trust these words, these are the words from Jonathan again. Actually, and that's now the floor is for you. If there's any questions of how we work, curiosities that you've always wondered about, or whatever.
What is the status of K3BSD? Are we allowed to remove support? The support of K3BSD. Are we allowed?
That's not an official port, so that's not of my concern.
So,
or maybe that's your question. It's not an official port. That's one of our rulings.
It's even also unstable, and it's not even completed. If you try to install it, you can install it, but you cannot get the download from the mirror from the packages there.
So from my point of view, K3BSD is not ready for a stable architecture.
It's dropped since Wheezy.
I mean, I don't want to have it as a release architecture, but can we just drop it altogether from Debian?
Not my decision, not our ruling. You should not ask me.
Will I be punished if I remove the K3BSD support from GCC?
Not by me.
Let me give a partial answer. I already removed K3BSD support from bootstrapping tooling because they didn't manage to keep up in any sane way. So it can't be bootstrapped. What else would you want to do with it?
No more meeting. Everything's clear. Don't ask difficult unblock questions, please.
So
Ubuntu has the interesting concept of having sets of packages migrate together or be integrated in a release together. Would we want that for Debian? I have a couple of package sets that I would like to be able to migrate together, where it would be useful.
And what would be missing, or what would be? I mean, if you mean really infrastructure to be able to do this consistently?
Yeah.
Because if you're talking about your set of Plasma or KDE, I think if you, for me there's 2 points to the question. If they should migrate together, then you should actually be defining that in your dependencies. Of course, I guess the reason why you're not doing that is because there can be version skew dependency-wise, and you still like to have a coherent set. I guess we can talk about trying to figure out infrastructure to have that. I'm not aware of other groups where that makes sense, where that's not declared in relations between the binary packages. And then it already happens automatically.
Right.
The drawback probably would be that we would start to consider these kind of things as transitions, so they need to be planned more carefully, particularly because it's more difficult to migrate groups together because other stuff can easily interfere. And you want to still have some progress. I guess if that's just a 1 or 2 groups out of that, the moment it happens, it's easy for us to add a bunch of block hints until everything's ready, and then remove the block hints, and then they migrate together in the next instance. But we don't have tooling yet to have a view of if it's ready to migrate. So that's stuff that would need to be made. But for individual sets, we could create a page to see what the status is or something like that. So if other ecosystems have similar needs, then please make sure that you line up. And of course, the bigger the need is, or the wish, I absolutely don't see fundamental problems to do that. I also don't see so far a big need to do this.
So at the beginning of this release cycle, we had an enthusiastic email from the release team about the ports, and then the discussion suddenly died.
Not suddenly, but yes.
Well, but died again and again, and I think some architectures require some effort on package maintainers to still build them, and I don't see that rectified by the amount of work that other package maintainers have to do compared of port maintainers doing that work.
Yeah.
Will that be different for Trixie?
One of the things that I've been playing already a long time with is, after the release of Bullseye, to basically put all the architectures except for AMD 64 in the thing that I put in my proposal as tier 2, where I wanted to have a more split of the archive. I think Brittany supports that. I haven't totally made up my mind yet if I'm going to do that, but I think it would be nice to see if we can play with the idea of to split the two, and sort of for the architects have more of a buy-in that they have to show that they actually meet the requirements, but at the same time lowering the burden for maintainers. On the other hand, I also think that for a lot of maintainers, there is not a huge burden, and you may, as a GCC maintainer, be in a select group of maintainers that are heavily impacted by lack of porters. So yes, I recognize that, but I also don't. as a release team member, I also see a lot of these bugs, but they're not that many that are really architecture specific. So it's a very difficult balance for me, particularly because I'm not so much into the architectures. And I think most people agree that having multiple architectures is a good value that we have in Debian. So that's also the reason why it's so difficult to decide on when to drop one. I really hope that I have the guts to start and play with that after the release.
Yeah, I mean, if you said you are not into architecture, maybe this is the wrong question, but is there any outlook that after Bookworm, the feature level for AMD 64 can maybe be raised? I mean, there has been, I think, a couple of years ago, the feature level proposals now supported basically by every compiler, AMD 64, 64 V2, V3, and V4, I think even, to bump it basically to AMD 64 V2, which I think starts with processors from 2007 or something.
That's really not my cup of tea, so I'm not going to comment on that. We did bump more or less by accident the baseline for i386 this release. Well, that's documented in the release notes. That didn't really happen on purpose, but practically it happened. So.
Hey. I'd like to thank you for your work, you as a team, because testing was introduced in the year 2000 and was in the beginning a bit bumpy. In 2002, I just checked the date, came Woody, and then we stayed on Woody for 3 years. And that was this Debian is unpredictable phase, and the releases take ages. And that had changed in the last, that's 20 years ago, and changed in the last 10 years. That's seen as a good side. And I think on the Debian inside, this release was smoother than ever. Like, it was very clear what the rules are, the project know the timing, and that wasn't the case like 5 or 10 years ago, and this has been really, really good. So thank you for all that, all of you.
I'll relay that to the people that implemented that. I stand on the shoulders of giants. And thank you for the questions.
Well, I guess then we'll stop a bit early here and have an extended coffee break. And then we're up to our last session for today by, I think, Jonathan, Nicola, and
Helmut.
Yeah, Helmut, sorry. About decision making. So, enjoy your break and see you soon.